Hi, my name's Harmi and I'm from West London English School, and in this video what we're going to do is we're just going to go over listening part A of the OET exam. We're not going to do a whole paper, we're just going to do one extract and we're going to go through it fairly slowly just to give you some ideas of how to approach this paper. So first of all, just a reminder of what listening part A is. It's made up of a consultation between a medical professional and a patient. So it could be a doctor and a patient, a nurse and a patient, maybe a neurologist or a psychiatrist with a patient. And there are two short extracts. And you'll be doing a gap fill exercise and you're listening out for specific information, for exact information. This is what you'll see on test day. You'll see something like this. You can see at the top it says extract 1 and it tells you extract 2, tells you who you're listening to. Here we've got a physiotherapist talking to a patient called Ray Sands. In extract 2 it's a dermatologist, a consultant dermatologist talking to Jake Ventor. And then basically what you can see are medical notes. These are the patient's medical notes. And you'll notice there are some gaps. Before the gaps are numbers. And this is where you're going to be writing your answers. So you might have noticed that on the left of the paper, on the left of the medical notes, were some headings. And these headings are there really just to kind of help you. They give you context. They tell you what you're listening to. And that just kind of really helps. It just makes it a bit easier if you know what you're listening to. So for example, the first heading was patient, and as you read down it tells you the main complaint, which is sciatica. It developed a year ago, the symptoms cleared up after 6 months and then they came back last month. The second heading, you'll be listening to the patient describe their symptoms. So this is for questions 2, 3, 4 and 5. You'll then be listening to the patient talk about their work, and then they'll be talking about the treatment which they initially had, and then they're going to be talking about a referral which was made. For questions 9, 10 and 11, they're talking about other treatment which they had, and finally they'll be talking about a previous diagnosis. So try and use these headings, pay attention to them, because they just kind of give you context, and like I said, it's just kind of easier if you know what you're listening to. So you might also have noticed that that not all of the notes had gaps. Some of the notes were completed, and that's done for a reason. It's done to help guide you through the listening. So for example, you can see after question number 3 it says loss of mobility. So once you hear the patient talking about their loss of mobility, you'll know where you are on the question paper and you'll know where the audio is. And then you'll hear them talk about problems sleeping. After this, you'll know that the answer is coming for question number 4. It's the same when you hear them talk about numbness in parts of their body. You'll know exactly where you are on the question paper, and you'll know where the audio is as well. And you'll know that the answer is coming for number 6. Same when they talk about NSAIDs, you'll know where you are, and you'll know that the answer is coming for question number 7. So try to use those completed gaps just to help guide you throughout the listening. And something else you can do is really pay attention to the words before and after the gaps, because these kind of give you clues as to when the answer is on its way. For example, if we look at question number 1, you can see here it says back injury sustained lifting something. So when you hear the patient talk about their back injury, you know the answer's coming. This is what the patient says: it all started when I hurt my back. So as soon as you hear that, I hurt my back, you know that the answer is on its way. It's the same with question number 2. Once the patient talks about their pain, the patient says, I had this pain all the way down my... I've taken out the answers because we're going to do this listening and I don't want to give you the answers. But once you hear the patient talk about the pain, you know that the answer is coming for question number 2. It's the same with question number 3. The patient says, I'm telling you, this was no ordinary pain. And as soon as you hear that, you know that the answer is coming. So try to pay attention to the words before and also after the gaps, as these kind of indicate when the answer is on its way. Something else that you need to be aware of is the difference in language between what you see and read on your question paper and what you hear in the audio. They're not the same. Your medical notes are quite formal, but the patient doesn't have your medical knowledge and the patient isn't going to be using that medical language. So what you hear is going to be different from what you can see on your question paper. And normally the patient will just be using everyday informal English. So let's have a look at an example. You'll see what I mean. If we'll look at question number 1. It says back injury sustained lifting. Well, the patient isn't going to say, I sustained my back injury by lifting. It's never that simple. It's never that straightforward. What the patient actually says is, it all started when I hurt my back. So you can see how different it is, and you can hear the difference in formality. It's the same, actually just down here as well. The patient says, I was giving somebody a hand. And again, you can see it's quite an informal phrase. In fact, it's a bit like an idiom, and it's probably worth learning a few idioms because that could help you in listening part A, but also in part C as well, of both listening and the reading. Okay, it's the same with question number 4. Here it says mentions inability to. The patient says, I couldn't even. You can see how different it is and just how much more simple and informal and straightforward it is from the patient. Another example here with question 11, patient attributes recovery to. Well, the patient isn't going to say, I attribute my recovery to. This is actually what the patient says, I think it was. A lot more direct and a lot more informal. So it's just something to be aware of, this kind of similar language, if you like, this kind of synonymous language, the difference between the formal stuff you can see on your medical paper and the more informal kind of everyday English coming from the patient. Okay, you've got 30 seconds to go through your question paper. It isn't a lot of time, but you want to put those 30 seconds to good use. Something you can do is try to not predict the answers, but try to anticipate what kind of answers are coming. I don't think you can predict the answers because sometimes there are so many different answers which are possible, but you can at least anticipate what kind of answer is coming, and that can really help you. Let's have a look. With number 1, it says here, back injury sustained lifting something. Well, we know it's going to be a noun. I've got a table or chair, but really it could be any heavy object. But it can just help you in that you know that you're listing out for a noun and for an object. With number 2, it says pain located in. Well, it's going to be a part of the body. And so you can anticipate that the answer is going to be a body part. If you know about sciatica, that might help you, but it shouldn't really make any difference. The thing is, you know to listen out for a part of the body. With number 3, pain described as. So it's going to be an adjective to describe pain, and it's probably worth learning a few collocations that go with pain, because that could help you with listening part A. I've got here sharp, dull, but really it could almost be any kind of adjective to describe pain. With number 4, mentions inability to. Thinking about the grammar, we often use the infinitive after to. So it's going to be a verb. Again, really it could be any verb. I've put here walk or sleep, but it just kind of helps you to know that you're listening out for an action, for a verb. With number 5, it's another adjective, this time one that collocates with sensation, a word to describe sensation. And again, it's probably worth learning a few collocations with sensation because that could help you in part A. So you're listening out for an adjective, number 5, to describe sensation. Number 6, you're listening out for a job. Number 7, Remember the headings. The heading here is initial treatment, so it's going to be a type of treatment. And you can see from the grammar it's going to be a noun. I've put ointment cream. Could really be any kind of treatment. Number 8, it's a referral. So the answer will be some kind of specialist. And then number 9, 10 and 11, all of these are about further treatment. So they're all going to be related to treatment. Number 9, there's nothing before or after the gap, so it's quite tough. But remember, it's going to be a type of treatment. And then number 10 and 11, both of these are nouns. You can see from the grammar. And again, it's hard to predict, but you can at least anticipate what kind of answer might come. I've put here for number 10, physiotherapy, homeopathy, and number 11, attribute recovery to rest or to swimming. And of course, these aren't the answers because we're going to do this. And I don't want to give you the answers. Finally, number 12, sciatica probably related to, well, it's going to be related to sciatica, obviously, and it's hard to predict, but you know, again, you're listening for a noun. Okay, so we did that in 2 minutes. You've only got 30 seconds to do that, but the more you practice, the faster you will get. Okay, so let's try and do this listening then. You're going to see the question paper appear on your screen. As the audio plays, the paper will scroll up so you can see it at all times. Okay, so make sure you've got a pen with you, and afterwards we'll go through the answers. All right, good luck.
Come in. It's Mr. Sands, isn't it?
That's right, Ray Sands.
Now, I think you've been referred to me because you're suffering from sciatica.
That's right. Not for the first time, actually.
OK. Well, I've got some notes here, but perhaps you can tell me in your own words about any previous bouts of sciatica you've had, what treatment you had, what worked for you, anything else you can remember.
Righto. Well, it all started when I hurt my back, about 18 months ago now.
OK.
I was giving somebody a hand with a heavy suitcase and I felt it go, just like that. Anyway, I slowly got over that, despite occasional flare-ups, and then, out the blue, about a year ago, sciatica developed. And it was 6 months till that finally cleared up altogether. Now it's come back in the last month or so, I'd say.
I see. And your GP said it was sciatica?
Yeah, I had this pain all the way down my right leg, and she said the real problem was in my back because the sciatic nerve was getting trapped.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you, this was no ordinary pain. It was really intense. I mean, to the extent that I couldn't stand for very long, couldn't walk hardly any distance, I couldn't sleep.
Oh.
I mean, the most frustrating bit for me was that I couldn't even turn over in bed. It just hurt so much. I just couldn't get comfortable. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I'd have, a sort of tingling feeling in my calves as well.
Right.
But then at other times, my whole leg just felt a bit numb, really. It was weird. And of course, I couldn't go to work. I'm an events organiser, so I travel about a lot. I'm setting things up for conferences, lugging stuff around, And so there was no way I could manage any of that, the state I was in.
OK. So how was this treated?
Well, in the first instance, I was given painkillers, obviously. Ibuprofen, as far as I can remember.
Right.
And I was told to put compression packs on the affected area. I mean, that did ease the pain a little, but I was still housebound, practically speaking.
OK.
Then the GP sent me to see an osteopath, and I got some treatment there, but it didn't seem to make much difference.
Right.
So I was referred to a sports injury specialist, of all things. And he did a number of things that did seem to ease things a little, like working on my spine and lower legs. Oh, and he gave me a set of exercises to do at home.
I see. Any other treatment?
I almost forgot. There was this course of injections, and I went for various other therapies, like ultrasound, and another one where they do, Well, they use like electrical impulses. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Okay.
At one point, I even considered acupuncture, but by then, the other things were beginning to take effect and the symptoms were subsiding, so I gave it a miss.
So, which of these various treatments do you feel was most effective? What made the difference?
Well, I couldn't say for certain because it all went on for 4 months without much improvement, really. Then it wasn't until suddenly in the 5th month things changed quite dramatically. So to be honest with you, I think it was the combination of treatments gradually taking effect and coming together rather than one single thing making the difference.
Okay. And did anyone ever talk to you about what might be causing the problem?
Well, I think everyone assumed that a slipped disc was behind it all, but
Right.
was never actually confirmed as that. I mean, I know there is this other condition where you get a lot of pain in the buttocks, but that wasn't my experience.
Okay. And did anyone talk to you about aspects of your lifestyle that might be contributing to the problem?
Well, I remember actually there was...
Okay, so how did you get on? Let's have a look. With number 1, this is what the patient said. I was giving somebody a hand with a heavy suitcase. And that's all you needed to write, heavy suitcase or a heavy suitcase. Question number 2, the patient said, I had this pain all the way down my right leg. And that was the part of body that you needed, right leg, just 2 words. The adjective for number 3 to describe pain, the patient said, I'm telling you, this was no ordinary pain. It was really intense. And that was the answer, intense. The patient then talked about their loss of mobility. You can see how different the language is from the audio to the question paper. The patient said, I couldn't stand for very long, couldn't walk hardly any distance. They then talked about their problem sleeping. Patient said, I couldn't sleep. And as soon as you hear that, you know the answer is coming for question number 4. This is what the patient said, I couldn't even turn over in bed. And that's what you needed to write. Remember, your answer needs to fit grammatically. And so you needed those 4 words, turn over in bed. Number 5, the patient said, sometimes I'd have a sort of tingling feeling in my calves. And that was the adjective, tingling, that collocates with sensation. You can't write tingling feeling because that wouldn't make sense. Feeling and sensation, they're both nouns, they're both the same words. So just take care as you listen and make sure you do read your paper carefully as well. Okay, number 6, the job was events organizer. And interesting phrase here that the patient said lugging stuff around, and again, it's quite an informal way of speaking. To lug something around just means to carry something about or move something about. But again, it kind of shows you the type of English that the patient is using. Very kind of informal, everyday English. Patient, again, didn't actually talk about NSAIDs directly. This is what the patient said. I was given painkillers, obviously ibuprofen. And once you hear that, you know the answer is going to come for question number 7. Again, the patient didn't say application of. Instead of application of, they used a phrasal verb. The patient said put on. For example, I was told to put compression packs on the infected area. And that's the answer. 2 words, compression packs. With number 8, the specialist you needed was osteopath. The GP sent me to see an osteopath. And then once you heard the patient talk about their injections, you know the answer's coming for number 9. The patient said, I went for various other therapies like ultrasound, which is the answer. They then talked about electrical impulses. And then the patient said, at one point, I even considered acupuncture. But I gave it a miss. Again, you can see the difference with language, decided not to try, and I gave it a miss. You can hear the difference with formality there. And with number 11, The patient said, I think it was the combination of treatments gradually taking effect and coming together rather than one single thing making the difference. Okay, so it's quite a lot to write. Remember, you're restricted to 3 or 4 words. All you needed to write here was combination of treatments. Finally, number 12, the patient said, I think everyone assumed that a slip disc was behind it all. And that was the correct answer, slip disc. Okay, so just to recap on some of the main points then, remember to use the headings to help you. These headings give you context, and it just really helps if you know what you're listening to. So do use those headings on the left of your paper. And use the completed notes as well to help you. Remember, not all of the notes had gaps. Some of them were completed, and that's done for a reason, just to guide you through the paper and to guide you through the audio. Pay attention to the words before and also after the gaps as well. These often tell you, or they indicate when an answer is on its way. So really do pay attention to those words before and after a gap. Remember the difference in language. What you see on your question paper are medical notes. These are more formal. The patient is going to be using more informal language. So you just need to be aware of this kind of synonymous language. You're going to be listening out for synonyms. Okay. And finally, remember, try and put those 30 seconds to good use and try, if you can, to anticipate some of the answers. I know it isn't a long time, but like I said, with practice, you will get quicker and quicker. Okay. So I hope you found that useful. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up or please do subscribe. If you're doing the OET exam and you're here in London, then please come in and see us. Come and have a chat with us. Or if you're watching this video somewhere around the world, then check us out on wles.net. We've got a load of online courses which you might find useful. Or if you just want some information about the OET, you're curious about it, maybe you've done IELTS before and it hasn't worked for you and you just want some information, then please come in and we're more than happy to talk to you. Or maybe you've done the OET before and you've failed a certain paper and you're not sure what's going wrong and you just need some advice and guidance, then please do get in touch with us and we're more than happy to talk to you. Okay, well, thanks for watching and take care.